It is 7:03 PM and I will call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is to accept the agenda after amending it if necessary. Does anyone have any amendments to make to the agenda? So I will entertain a motion to accept the agenda. Okay. You want a second, Andy?
Yeah, second, yes.
All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Next item on the agenda are minutes. If you'll recall, we did not accept the minutes of our January meeting and February's meeting because I needed to check on whether or not what was in the minutes about the price that the Bockrats paid was correct, and it was incorrect. So the correct number that they paid was $212, which was half of the $425 that was the cost of the tree and supplies. After which Bruce Bennett submitted an invoice for $98. So they did not pay quite half, even though that was our intention.
So Liddy's budget statement said that she paid $250 for the tree to the.
No, great.
Oh, it got $250 from.
Well, I think that's probably
That's-
correct then. That's just, I just wanted to-
From their parents' arms, random fights with our allies, and a million bodies in the ground. We told it. The bodies stacked up in refrigerated trucks. Because the hospitals ran out of room. The state fighting over ventilators with homeless people dying by the.
Wendy, what else do you have going?
I just had to turn off the TV.
Okay,
Sorry.
Okay.
It was in the Cougar Fund budget.
oh, okay, well, we can just click right into that. So,
No,
here it is, contribution Backrocks, $250. Oh my God, thank you. Yost, you're the best. The minutes then should be amended to note that the Backrocks paid $250. And if no one else has any other amendments, then I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the meeting of January.
So move.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. You want to do the second?
I wasn't at that meeting, so I probably
Okay.
shouldn't.
Okay, I will tell you, however,
Oh,
that
yeah, I was at that meeting. This is the January.
Robert's
Yeah.
rules do allow somebody to make a motion to accept minutes even if they weren't there.
I was at the January one. I will second the motion.
Okay.
And
Mike,
can I make motions or second them?
you
As not
cannot.
an official member?
Not
Okay.
that we wouldn't appreciate it, but I
Okay.
don't think that you can.
Yeah.
So we appreciate your support as we
Mhm.
go through our motions and voting.
Okay.
All in favor, raise your hand and say aye, and are any
Aye.
opposed? And hearing none, that motion carries. I might just leave this up here for a minute since we'll be doing the treasurer's report, but the next item on the agenda is to accept, amend if necessary, and then accept the minutes of the meeting from February 14th. Does anyone have any amendments to make to those minutes?
I'm good.
All right, so I will entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
I so move.
Thanks, Wendy. And a second.
So you can second.
Okay, I'll second them
Okay.
because Mike wasn't there and he feels uncomfortable.
Correct.
And that is,
So can the chair second or make a motion?
I think so.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
let's see.
All right, all in favor, raise your hand or say
Aye.
aye. And are any opposed? And hearing none, that motion carries. Next item is the treasurer's report, and Lydia, I think, CC'd us all when she distributed, was it today or was it yesterday?
No, it was
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
The treasurer's report and the separate report on the Kuga Fund. So I'm just going to click into the treasurer's report. And as you can see, there's a small expense here for conference. I don't know where Carol's book from the library ends up falling, but we know that she purchased that for her program. But anyway, that's where we are on our budget. Still lots of expenditures to make. And the Cougar Fund balance in the account is $11,387.59. That includes $387.87 for the Arboretum stewardship. Anyone have any remarks to make about the treasurer's report?
No.
All right.
I am curious, that mileage to get the tree, is that Bruce or who is that?
That was Bruce.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we learned from that we need to be careful of getting all of our receipts before we settle up with the recipient of the tree.
As far as collecting.
But since they contributed $250, it actually is closer to true half.
Right.
So, anyway, I'm gonna stop the share. And the next item on the agenda is public comment, and the record can reflect that there are no members of the public here.
Hey, Connie,
Yeah,
I was not able to find the agenda anywhere on the website.
oh,
I
I
didn't know
know
if,
anything about that because Darlene usually does that, but did you not get mailed it?
I did, it was gonna be quicker for me to just go and find it on the website because it should have been on the homepage on the calendar, but it's in neither place. So, I don't know what you want to do. If, only because if it's not posted to the website, then I don't know if it was warned.
Well, Darlene sent me a receipt that she had.
Okay,
So I can
perfect.
follow
That's
up with
all.
her tomorrow, but she did say that it had been posted.
Okay.
Do you need the agenda, Jean? We could
Nope,
look
I
at.
haven't. I went and dug it up in the email.
Okay,
Thanks. I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that it would, that wasn't anywhere on the website. But if Darlene
No,
gave you a confirmation, then it's all good.
she did. She emailed me saying it was posted. So, yeah, I didn't even check because, the meeting link is mine, so I don't need to go anywhere to get it. Okay, so we're gonna move into old business. It's April. Well, it isn't, but it almost is April. And so it's the time of year when we're planning our spring events, which is always fun. Starting with the town cleanup. And I have to say, people are out there cleaning the streets already. I went out to do it myself, Sunday before last, I think it was when it was. And there were already full bags like positioned at several drop-off places along South Road. And I was like, who's out here doing my job?
Vicious.
Yeah. So that's really nice. We, because it does seem to, start growing earlier and earlier every year, we decided, recall from past meetings that we were going to hold the cleanup for the entire month of April. So I've been in touch with the folks from HRRA, and they are holding for me 100 gloves, a box of bags, and 10 vests. We definitely outpace what HRA is able to give, because we last year had 400 pairs of gloves and 300 bags. And we don't usually do vests because at least at South Kent School gives them out. So I thought the vests would be good this year. Some of our other volunteers might like to have vests, but we are going to need to supplement the bags and the gloves. So that's number one. The second thing is that I worked on Sunday to come up with a Google form to collect the names and information from folks who will be helping with the cleanup. And Melissa has already updated the poster and shared it out on social.
Yeah, got it today. I have to read-
So I'm hopeful that most people will use the form only because it does allow us to collect additional information, like whether or not they're the people volunteering are captains and whether there'll be other people that are helping them, because we haven't always had all of the names of everyone that's helping. So this gives us a better, I think, sense of the information of, you know, who exactly is participating in this. It also will allow someone to just put in that they already cleaned their road. So we're probably missing, you know, a lot of people who do this continually and had already picked up their roads by the time the cleanup started. So the Google form, hopefully will be a nice improvement. And my intention is just to email all of the folks that participated last so that they're aware of the, you know, what we're doing this year, and know that we're, you know, we're happy if they'll participate again.
I have a
so-
couple of questions, Connie, before.
Yeah.
We should keep a close eye on whether this practice of having the cleanup last for the whole month is really working, because it's possible that we'll have, like, Camp Platts Road will be dirty again if somebody cleans it the 1st of April, and you won't get that wonderful sense of everything happening at once. You know, it just, I mean, I hope it works, but it would be a shame if some of these roads got dirty again.
Yeah, I think you're right, Wendy. I want to show you guys the form. And I can send it all out. I think this is it. Yeah. I can send it all out after the meeting, but I wanted to discuss it with you first. Okay, so hold on. These are the responses. So these are people that already said they would help. So this is the way that the form looks. And if you, oops, sorry, if you read, you know, I was conscious of exactly what you were saying, because this paragraph here, so many of you pick up trash regularly throughout the year, and we're very grateful for this kindness. We hope you will participate in this group effort to make a noticeable difference all at once in celebration of Earth Day and to demonstrate Kent community pride in the beauty of our town. So that was my attempt to say,
Well, yeah, good, that's good.
we want this to be clean for April for Earth Day, you know. And you know, it always irks me, frankly, if I go and pick up my roads and like the next day there's a beer can on the side.
Oh, absolutely.
That's really annoying. So I think that the same is probably true of anyone who volunteers, that, you know, they do it, and then if they see that it's unclean again, they'll get really annoyed and maybe they'll do it again. But the form itself, see if I can navigate to do this without making you really dizzy. Ask people for their first and last name, their address, and email. We can contact them. The roads where they're proposing to clean, whether there are members of their family that are helping them do this, and then what their names of those people are there neighbors that will be helping you? If so, please provide names, again, for our purpose in thanking them. Would you like the Conservation Commission to provide you with bags and gloves? If yes, how many, and how many gloves? And do you have questions and concerns? So pretty simple form, hopefully not too onerous for anyone. And if you're familiar with a Google form, the nice thing is that we can view the responses individually, or we can just download them right into a spreadsheet that'll allow us to copy and paste an email list that'll help us communicate with people really quickly.
I wonder if it would be nice to get a few photographs of families out. you know, that what they want to contribute the way they do for Mike's game in the summer.
Well, so I can do that without having it on the form, because this is really like, tell us if you're participating. But once we have that, we can email not only a
Oh,
thank
good,
you,
okay.
but we can email like a, please post your photos to social or something, or use this hashtag or something like that.
Yeah, I was
my-
just gonna say, you could, Melissa could put a hashtag in a, a post and have people post them right to social media. That would be fun.
Yep.
So I'm just making
Uh,
some notes.
My other quick question is, are we gonna have a table out beforehand to get some new members? At the-
Well, so that is one of the questions, Wendy. So
Home from, yes, night, sorry.
yes.
Oh,
I'm gonna maybe navigate to somewhere else while I'm waiting.
I'm good, I can't talk very long because I'm on Zoom, but what's up?
And I actually am gonna just mute Wendy. Okay,
There we go. Good
so,
navigating.
yeah, well, I don't know why my thing is cycling. I wanted to show you, don't do this, that I spent some time looking at reusable grocery bags. Wendy, if you can hear us, unmute. I just muted you so we didn't hear you. Can
Can't hear you yet.
there we go. Okay,
I? Yes, we can hear you. Thanks. So if you'll remember, we also discussed at the last meeting whether or not we could have a thank you item. And we talked a little bit about whether it would make sense to hand out the bags in reusable bags. I can't, because I'm not like signed into Vistaprint, I can't really get this page to share, but I played around with things like putting our logo on the bag. My design didn't look exactly like this. It looked nicer. But we can get a bag like this. We can get 50 for, and then I think I can get a 40. I got this down to like basically $1.99 and free shipping. So that was a question that I had. Do you like the idea of, rather than holding a celebration with food at the transfer station, which was always a little awkward at the end, giving people the thank you gift in advance when they come to pick up their bags is one question. And I
Nice.
do think the budget can handle it.
can we get those in time?
Yes.
I think it's a nice idea. I mean, no cake, well, what do we do about South Kent School? Oh, we still have to get them a cake, I assume.
We probably have to do something for South Kent School. We can't afford bags for them and they don't want them.
Yeah, right.
Maybe- I'm assuming most of the kids don't have a use for that.
I agree, yeah.
So I should have said that in a nicer way. It just doesn't make sense.
Agreed.
So kind of circling back to your question, Wendy, is, let me stop sharing so I see us big again, is we are gonna need to have a time that we pass bags out to people.
Because it's not a one-day event.
Yeah. So we could do that at, say, the IGA or the transfer station and solicit more people to participate in this kind of at the same time. The question is, who's available to do that and when should we do it?
Well,
When is the transfer station busiest typically?
well, Easter weekend is the 31st, is a Sunday. We don't want to do it then, but maybe the Sunday after that?
Sunday after that'll be in April. We should do it before.
Mm. Well, we've got,
For the Saturday before Easter would be all right, right?
you mean the day before?
Yeah,
Well, maybe. People do travel for that holiday. Some do, and some are home cooking.
That's
which is
the,
what I'm-
that's the second. Oh, no, sorry, I'm in February.
30th?
Yeah. No, it's the 30th.
30th is the Saturday for Easter. Um. So we could potentially do it the 6th, a Saturday, or the 7th, or both of those.
I could help either of those days, but not on the 30th.
Well, yeah, I could do it this Saturday after Easter, but I'm gonna be busy that weekend.
I think that we should try to do maybe one IGA outreach and one transfer station outreach. Does that make sense? And like a 2-hour period for both of those times? Makes sense.
I'll take one of those 2 hours. I can't tell you exactly when, but one of them.
The 7th would be easier for me.
Okay, I think maybe the easiest thing to do is maybe for me to poll out to the commissioners with the slots. And if we say we want. Why is Jean just, oh, I'm just getting an email. If we say we want 2 people at the table, then we really just need 4 volunteers to do it, or maybe we split it up to 1 hour at a time, but spending 2 hours doing something is not a big
That's
deal,
reasonable.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why do you need 2 people?
At a table?
Yeah, I mean, you get a lot more mileage out of
It's
one
certainly more fun.
I think also that, it could be the case that, I know we're not gonna get swarmed, but it could happen that we're talking to somebody that we know and somebody else is there to pick up their bags, or I don't know. I think ideally 2 people, but let's see what we get.
I'd rather hang out with you, Wendy, than do it alone.
Well, thank you. I'm fine with that.
All right. Other decisions to be made include, what do we do with South Kent School? I don't even know who to contact anymore. I'm assuming that they're gonna wanna do it, because it's been such a great day for them for years.
Steve Klotz run.
Father does a lot of the work for that. I could maybe email him. Oh, I meant to also tell you that the Chamber of Commerce will share in this with us. We had to confirm that before we picked the poster. So they said yes. Again, they had $200 in their budget, so that offsets our costs for additional bags or cake or whatever it is. I will email Father Klotz to see what they're doing. What should we propose with respect to the cakes? Because that has always been a little bit of a hurdle, given that we got them from Costco, and many people don't have a Costco membership.
Well,
Is there any reason
if
why
I
we couldn't
to go
have either 45 on Main do one of their cupcake cakes, or have Rosie's Kitchen do cupcakes for them?
Well, the only thing is that we used to get 3 giant cakes, which I'm a little bit concerned about the budget for, but I don't know.
Well, we would only be getting one for South Kent. The Boy Scouts are getting cupcakes, I think,
the Boy Scouts are getting popsicles, I think. That is what
popsicles, yeah.
he was gonna do.
No, I think we're down to 1 cakes for South Kent School. And if I only have to go once, I'll do it.
For 3 cakes. Yeah,
Yeah, the problem last time was it was spread out over different days and, everybody had a special need. And it just got to be very time consuming, but
You can
one
get,
trip is,
you still have Costco?
oh. Yes, there's a bear pee in the woods, yes.
Okay. All right, that would be awesome. So let me confirm with Father Klatz that they want to do it. And then we can order the cakes and it can all happen on just one day, one trip only.
Right.
Great. Thank you. All right, and I've already let Rick know at the transfer station that that we don't plan to do a photo with all of our garbage this year. So he does not have to put it aside. It was fun, but it also was smelly at times. It can all just go straight into the trash. And I think that we're not going to do a big celebration because we can do that probably just as effectively virtually. But we will put the sandwich boards up at the transfer station and maybe one out at the center of, where you drive in to town hall so that people can see that it's happening.
Do we still have a deal with the road crew to pick up tires and things like that?
Probably. I haven't confirmed with Rick, but I think we probably do, and then we pay to dispose of them. So that's what the deal has been in the past, is that, we could put stuff that was really bulky or very yucky near the edge of the road and that they would be able to pick it up. I haven't, like I said, I haven't confirmed, but I bet that's still the case.
What happens with the bags that are filled? Do they get picked up or do
No,
have to
people
take
do them themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, they'd be torn
Connie-
up by bears and things.
Connie, looping back around on the gloves. So do you guys need gloves?
Yes, we'll need to buy some gloves, I think,
So
but I don't
the-
know how many.
Okay, the fire department will donate gloves.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Just let me know how many boxes you need.
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
Something that we have done twice, made this mistake twice, is we keep buying the small ones and they fit no one.
Yeah, nobody needs small gloves.
Not even, like children. So no size small gloves. We have to remember that. No, just say no, not even for. Okay. And Rick said that he would again accept if people were picking up, even if they weren't customers of the transfer station, they can drive in and throw it out there.
Cool. And Jen is giving us a box of the orange bags.
Well, I don't know. She's giving us a box of garbage bags, but I hope they're more like contractor bags because they have to really stand up to some pretty nasty trash. And it's not.
That's what we had before. They were really heavy duty.
Well, but
They were contractor bags.
we don't separate. Like the trash from the street, we don't
You can't.
No.
sort.
we don't sort it. So
Right, it's all
Wait.
just,
I mean, we should save those bags for people that are actually taking the challenge, I think, unless she just has a ton of extra. She has a ton of extras of other stuff. She tried to give us pens and pads of paper, to which I politely said, I think that we don't need those this year. So it's just kind of interesting to me, actually, because I remember not too many years ago when we made those pads for grocery lists, and it was like to encourage people to remember to bring their reusable bags. And I mean, that is in the past, some people are stubborn, they don't have them, but most people just, they bring their bags in, they know how to do it. And pens, even pens are not a huge thing now in our digital age. So interesting to see where things are going. I think that's about it for now on the cleanup, but feels like it came together pretty well.
Do we know anything about state roads?
No, that I will make a call and see if I can get them to do it.
Should I reach out to Megan at Kent State?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay. I'll-
And it really could be anytime. You know, that's convenient.
Great. We do have a service day
Alright.
planned in April, so.
Okay, great.
Good work.
Kind of behind in my notes here, but, okay, great. Let's move to Arbor Day. Yos.
Yeah, so I spoke with with N-Star, they had their meeting of the Arbor Day committee, and so they wanted to do a tree again. And Bruce and I decided the firehouse would be a good place to plant them. So we marked several spots there. Could take a lot of trees there, but we'll do just one. And then Bruce suggested that we give the students a choice out of some trees. So I listed, I think 6 or 7 trees. And passed it on to Anne and Chris Rose, and so they will give it to the students. And I gave them some websites like the Native Plant Trust.
Mhm.
That's from the England Wildflower Society and then the National Wildlife Federation's website about native plants, native trees. So we hope that they can look into that and then make informed choice of which tree they want to plant. And trees we picked out are all good trees for that site. Then I called or I emailed Eric Epstein to let them know and get their permission. So Eric was saying, well, it sounds good, but he has to get the permission from their board, but they don't have a meeting till next month. I said, can you do it earlier? He hasn't really responded when he can do it, but I said, I would like to know it as soon as possible. Because if it can't happen there, we have to find another site and another tree, so. I suppose they'll come through, but I may have to remind them to make a decision. It shouldn't be a difficult decision for them. They get a free tree. And
Yost, did you reach out to the president of the fire department, John Russell?
John Russell, no, Anne told me to reach out to Eric because he heads the infrastructure
Yeah, he was the facilities person.
facilities. So,
There's a new person in that position. I would just go right to John Russell because he would likely need to bring it to the executive committee, and he's the chair of the executive committee. It's just president@kentfire.org.
President at kentfire.org.
Great.
And Eric mentioned that there's gonna be a new sidewalk put in there too. Do you know how far that sidewalk is gonna go? I think we're far enough away, the flags are far enough away from there that it shouldn't interfere, but do you know how far the sidewalk is gonna run?
The for Streetscape 2,
Yeah,
it's gonna go on the firehouse side. It's only gonna go to the first curb cut.
only to the first one, okay, I think we're
Yeah,
fine.
the first one meaning the one that's closer to the Patco.
Right. Yeah, so the one that they joins with the elderly housing. What is that?
Well, that's Swift Lane.
Right.
And
which-
then the
Oh,
next
the
driveway,
driveway.
which is the first driveway of the fire department, the one where you can get into the gravel lot.
Right, and I think we were gonna do in the Big Island past, just past that, so there shouldn't be sidewalk there, didn't seem to make sense that there would be a sidewalk there. But anyway, we move them far enough away from the road that it shouldn't interfere anyway, so. And Bruce had checked with Rick, if there were any in the ground trees, and there's nothing there according to Rick. No.
Okay. We will look forward to hearing, the final details on that in our
Yeah.
next meeting, because we do have a chance to have our April meeting before Arbor Day happens. Children's Library Program, I don't think there's anything for us to discuss. The minutes of our last meeting reflect that it's that it's happening and that it's on composting, and Carol's excited about it. She's got all of the details nailed down. The one thing I wanted to remind everyone was that the date of it changed from Wednesday to Thursday, so it is happening on April 18th. And Carol always appreciates it when we can be there and help out. She really does love doing these programs, so it'd be fun to come and support her in doing that. Anything else to say on our April events before we move into discussing street trees? All right. Well, let's do it, folks. So Wendy, do you want to talk about Bruce and this program that he's located that may enable us to write a grant application?
Yeah, the grant application on paper says that it goes to disadvantaged communities. However, when I went to look and see who actually got these grants, and they have a bunch of samples on their page, I looked at Bloomfield, for example. Bloomfield has a poverty rate of 4.2, I believe, and they got, which is pretty low, they got a grant for street trees from this program. I looked at Kent has a poverty rate of 5.1. So we certainly come in under that same set of standards. And I believe, looking over the listings, that it's going to depend on how we write this request.
Well, it actually has to be, did you look at this? That the communities align with the screening tool. Did you look at this?
Yes, I did.
And is
I
Kent
can't,
one of
it's
those?
something now I can't quite remember, but I'm not, I mean, Bruce has talked to people at Deep, and they told him, as long as as long as we explain that the tree planting is going to be in the vicinity, it's going to be in the village center, and it's going to be close to affordable housing and senior housing, that will qualify us. And I'm willing to try it. I've questioned him 2 or 3 times about this, and he comes out the same place everywhere. And he hangs with all these people who are tree wardens. Sorry about that. So, questions? But I thought it was interesting to see that our poverty rate in Kent was 5.1. And
Yeah,
Yes, so
Sharon
Connie,
is 11.
I've been on a ton of Deep and DOT grant webinars in the last 3 weeks, and they're all looking at the social justice piece of this, and a lot of, like, one of the grants that we're walking through is the oh my gosh, I just forgot it, the pollution reduction grant that's coming through the EPA. And almost every bucket, the first tier is, are you a LIDAC community? And that's the low income distressed, and I can't remember the rest of the acronym. And that map that you were just looking at, those little amoebic
Yeah,
shapes are those LIDAC areas. And we have in this region, it's really just Torrington and a piece of Winstead, I think. But Wendy, if you're saying they told you to apply, I would apply.
Yeah. I'm planning to call Deep myself directly, but I'm also going to be talking tomorrow to the woman who ran the tree program at Bloomfield and find out just how she did it. Because it's celebrated on Deep's own page as giving an example.
well, but Bloomfield could be one of those communities.
No, but I'm telling you, their poverty rate is lower than ours.
That's not how they decide on this. You know, they have, so, I mean, I didn't look, you know, I was looking at Kent, so I didn't look over at Bloomfield. We can check the tool there, but I wouldn't rule out even though it says urban forest equity, like I wouldn't rule out that Bloomfield might qualify.
Well, it seems as though, why don't we try? I mean, what's the harm?
Like try applying for a grant that we're not eligible for. We should definitely check
If
with them.
if we're borderline and Deep says we're okay, and Deep has told Bruce we're okay, I don't see a reason to not give it a try.
No, I mean, I don't think that we should apply if we think it's borderline, but I think that we should check. And if Bruce thinks it's fine, you know, if Bruce says it's okay, we should double check, say, who'd you talk to, and just check it out. And if we're welcome to apply, then we're welcome to apply. But you know, otherwise we're not eligible to apply. You know, there's no.
That's what I plan to do.
Right. So, but if we are eligible, there are 3 tiers to this grant. So we would need to choose what it is that we, you know, what range of funding we're looking for and what it is that we want to do. I do believe that if the town applies for funding, that it has to go through Barbara Herbst. So we should have that in mind in terms of the timing. I did look at the application, which is all done online. So it's one of those things where, you know, you would want to download the form and, you know, prepare your answers in Word and then upload them at the very last moment, because it doesn't save a partial form is what they tell you. So you have to do this all in one fell swoop. But what they do is they ask, like, some of the stuff, this is all pretty much boilerplate. In terms of who's authorized to sign the contract, that would be something to check through with the town. And they have name of project, where it is, you locate it on the map, project summary, 50 words or less, amount of funding, there's a spreadsheet that goes with that, start date, end date, scope of work with 600 words, final projects, timeline, budget, your statement of urban forestry goals, which has to come out of the forest action plan, statement of equity and environmental justice, statement of community involvement, and this is to me something that is sustainable CT type thing where, you know, if you have community buy-in, it's helpful. And then letters of support.
And so Connie, which grant would we be applying for again?
Well, this is all the Urban Forest Equity Grant.
When
There are
you,
3 tiers of funding.
so I'm looking at that deep page that you were just on. If you scroll down towards the bottom, there's a table that sort of parses out what the grant program is, the applicant eligibility, eligible project types, release, match requirement, and funding source.
I don't even have that table. Can you see a link to that on my screen?
Yeah, let me, hold on. I'm on
I
a
didn't-
little laptop. Um, Forest Equity Grant Program. So I'm on urban forestry. I'm just gonna put the link in the chat for you.
Hold on then.
The one that Wendy was showing was the Urban and Community Forestry Grant program, right? Is that different one then?
I don't know, that was what I got to when Wendy shared the link with me, and that was the one I got to.
There was a more generalized
that.
grant, but it's not available this year. That might be that one you're,
No,
Yeah, try that link that I just put in the chat. So
Yeah,
this looks like it's the broader homepage of all of their urban and community forestry grant opportunities, but it does have that handy little table at the bottom. And there's a couple that, there's one that's a disadvantaged communities, one, the urban forest equity grant. No match requirement, but then there's some that have a 50-50 match requirement. So, and it seems to roll up a lot of the information that we were sort of wondering about.
I think Bruce is thinking about this one, the urban forest equity, because he seemed to think that it was due soon. And urban forest resilience is mid 2024. Urban forested natural areas and riparian corridor also. It could be, yeah, this is the one Wendy, you said wasn't being offered, the community forestry small grant.
I think they said, watch for an announcement, but it hasn't been. I'm not quite sure now which one it was, but it's probably that one. But it says spring 2024 right there, but I don't think it's.
Let's see if there's a link to that up here. Let's see, community forestry, no link. At the moment.
Not a good sign.
Yeah. Well, okay, so look, so the urban forestry one is due in April. It seems like there's still maybe time. I just wish I felt more confident that we are actually eligible for this grant.
Well, it takes a phone call to DEP. And
Right.
I'll find out from Bruce who to talk to. Or somebody else can do it.
According to their information that's posted, we are not eligible.
Well, it's hard for me to imagine that Bruce would be pushing this so hard and saying he's had this conversation and none of it's true. So, it's worth a phone call. That's all.
Okay, so I don't know though that we could potentially get a little farther on this. I suppose it's not, it's maybe makes sense to talk a little bit about what we would do with the money and how much we think we would need.
Connie, there's also a recorded webinar on the grant page, the grant specific page that you were just on.
That would
That
probably
probably,
for eligibility.
yeah, for sure.
So,
Based on those tiers that were presented, the funding tiers, and our capability of planting trees. I mean, if this is something that's over only a few year basis, I don't think we'd be applying for the lowest tier.
yeah.
well, will it be spread out over several years or do you have to use it in one go? One year.
I think you describe in your plan, but it would be mostly probably fall planting.
Let's go. Back to that.
I think Bloomfield got something like 60 trees. But
And
which
do
is
you
far more
know
than we
who
have in mind.
planted them? Did they have town crew planting them? Do you know?
The woman is supposed to call me in the morning. But they did a lot of other things. They created a tree keeper volunteer corps. They had a tree committee, quite apart from the Conservation Commission, you know.
So in, there's an RFP, on that same grant page, and under 2 goals of the program, it says the Urban Forestry Equity Grant Program aims to address canopy inequities in nature deprived communities in Connecticut by providing financial support for urban forestry project. Nature deprived communities are disadvantaged communities that disproportionately lack access to natural areas such as parks and urban forests.
What
Well,
else?
your senior housing puts people lacking easy access to parks and so on. I think it's the way you shape this.
Okay, well, let's see if it is the way that we shape it or not, because it may be as simple as, are we one of those communities or not? And if we're not one of those communities, we may be ineligible. So let's find that
And
answer.
the
Sure.
RFP also says projects must demonstrate direct benefit to disadvantaged communities as defined by the Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool.
But what we don't know is how many towns actually go to the trouble of applying for these things. And if they have an embarrassment of riches, as Bruce would have you believe, it may very well be that they are glad to hear from somebody who takes the time to ask. That's just all that I've been
Okay,
thinking.
if we are, because we really cannot get any farther on that tonight. I think we've really talked that through. But do we have any concept about what we would do and how much it would cost and who would do it?
Well, don't we already have a desire for a certain number of trees in the village of Kent? I thought we had already done that. I thought Yost had, and
Yeah,
Bruce
but
had,
we can only do a couple per year, right? Unless we get the town crew to do it with machinery and
but if
have
we had a grant, that would
like a
change.
whole truck delivery of trees. Instead of doing one by one, picking them up individually, planting them individually.
Yost, but Bruce has this plan, right? And
Right.
he picked out a number of locations
Mhm.
in the village center.
Yeah.
And we also know who the property owners are. And about how many trees are we talking about? And how many willing property owners?
Well,
do
we
think
don't
we have
know
at?
about the property owners, but or at least 50, maybe close to 100. There are plenty of spaces where we could use a tree, but not everybody will want one. And then in some cases, you wonder, should the town pay for that or a ground pay for that when there's a business that can easily afford it themselves? So that's another thing, but
Well, I think if we can quantify at all how many trees
I
and
can count them.
then make a guess that maybe 70% of those property owners would welcome a tree, because I think most people would. We might even go up as high as 80%. 8 of 10 people asked would accept the tree, especially if it was free. If their only obligation was to take care of it, then maybe we can come up with a number that would be our budget. And I don't know how that then converts into the equity discussion, I definitely think that the idea of having trees near senior housing is compelling, but I don't think that that would be the entirety of what we would do. That's not like all of the trees that would, so we may just want to know that in case this doesn't work out and we want to look for other funding. And we did say that we could do a certain number of trees with the Cougar Fund
Mhm.
every year.
But you look at that sentence, the first bulleted point there, tree planting on private lands with permission of landowner, trees for free program, Bloomfield. That's what I'm going on. And that's the woman who's going to call me tomorrow morning and tell me how they did it. And, and probably send me a copy of the grant proposal. That's what I'm hoping.
Right, but Wendy, how many people are in Bloomfield?
It's bigger than Kent, but it's not gigantic.
So, I mean, we have to figure out, we need to apply for a grant using a budget that makes sense for what it is.
Right, that's why I'm waiting for Yost and Bruce to decide, if you had money, wouldn't you rather plant 10 trees in the first year and 10 trees in the second year or something like that?
Yeah, you could do that. And then how do you charge, like if we have to use the town or if it becomes a lot of work, then how do you charge for labor? And what about, we're now charging wholesale prices, but then are you going to charge retail or wholesale? That's another thing that you have to wonder.
Well, I'm not looking to reinvent this. My hope was to find out from the towns that have used this, just what they did and copy it. Find towns that fit the bill. And if we fail, we fail, but
I'm wondering how we're gonna get around this because we don't, I mean, we could always do a special meeting. Jean, in your recollection of how things work, if Bruce is our tree warden, would he be able to work with the town to submit a grant application?
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate for him to work with Barbara.
So I think maybe what is the best course of action is, Wendy, definitely make that phone call, see if it's a go or a no. And if it's a go, you can work with Yost and Bruce offline, and Bruce can submit the application. And the Conservation Commission would be happy to have a letter of support in that. And that we can easily do, by email and still get ready for, our, not worry about our next meeting fouling everything up is what I'm worried about most of all, is how to move forward on this in a way that doesn't get bogged down. But I think that having Bruce be the one making the application on behalf of the town and us playing a supportive part is probably the best way of doing that. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, you'd probably be in a better position to be able to frame the scope of work and understand some of the requirements in the application.
Yeah, I'm not actually saying that we just put it back on Bruce. I would like to be helpful. But anytime there's more than two of us talking to each other, we must have a meeting and it must be minuted. And right now I feel like we're pretty much at square one because we don't have a concept or even know that we're eligible for sure. So we need to determine, are we eligible? And then we need a concept. And the way to do that is not through a meeting, but to have people that can do this, in accordance with all of the rules, through the proper channels. And so to me, it sounds like it would be easiest facilitated through helping Bruce to get what he needs in order to make this grant application. We can still even, Wendy ghostwrite, that's fine. I don't think we can do this in this meeting room.
All right.
So it would be important to be in touch with Bruce and figure out with that plan, how many trees,
Mhm.
how many we think is possible. You know, what the budget for that might look like, getting pretty specific. There's an Excel spreadsheet where you have to budget that out. And lots of word restrictions, which really can slow down a grant as well.
Hmm.
Does that sound good?
You said work or word restrictions?
Word restrictions. Word restrictions, so we're still sharing, right? So here you can see when they say things like, wait, let's do a better one. When they say 50 words or less, if you have 51 words, it won't take it. In fact, this to me indicates 350 characters. So as I said, the way to do this is to print this as a PDF, so you have a copy of the questions, and then turn that PDF into a Word document. And then as you draft your Word answers, you can use the review tool to see how many characters and words you're using. And then you have to make sure that your limits are within these limits, or this form won't even accept it. There's no games with fonts or, making your margins narrower in forms like this. It's again, it's like a yes or a no. So, so there's some prep work. And as long as we're not meeting, we all might have a way to share in helping out. But the first thing to determine is whether or not we can actually apply.
Do I
Um,
send you the answer, Connie, or do I send it to everybody?
Who? What? Send what?
The information that we are eligible or not eligible.
You should send that to everyone. It's not really a comment, it's just a answer.
Okay.
Okay, so I think it would be helpful for everyone to know whether or not it's going forward, but then you and Bruce to get together to figure out, okay, if we're gonna do something and it's funded, how much is it gonna cost and what's the scope of this work looking like?
Mhm.
So do we want to talk any more about I mean, if we had $20,000 to do the entirety of the project for every willing person, then, maybe it doesn't matter so much to be selective the way that we had been thinking that we were going to be. But if we don't have that money available, we still need to make progress on, how are we going to determine where our priority sites are and how to make the outreach? And Mike made some really good notes, which I shared with everyone at some point. I don't have that
What
tab.
notes? When did you share that?
I think for the February meeting.
Yeah. before the
Oh,
February
okay,
meeting.
yeah.
I don't know if we want to go through those without
And
everyone here.
I plan to put a list of native street trees together and hope to add some information to it. So if I were better at it, I could provide more links or whatever to so people can click on it and find more information about each tree. But maybe somebody can add that later. And here that. But so I'll try to make a list that people can use to choose from. Also give like the size of the tree and if it can be below a power line or not.
I mean, maybe
Yeah.
we'll find out some interesting things from Bloomfield. Maybe they did wrap the whole program up for us and we can replicate it, whether or not we get the funding.
Yeah, if they have the information online, that would be helpful.
I think it might be more fruitful to have a conversation again next time we meet.
I think so, too.
Fruitful, unintended,
Fruitful.
after we've got the information about the grant program.
Okay, all right, so let's table the rest of that discussion for now.
But we still have the Cougar Fund, so we can still do a couple of trees a year.
Yeah, and I think that if we can't move forward on this grant, we definitely do
Yeah.
need to come up with what our program would be and describe that and have everything all buttoned up and in place so that we can recruit people for fall planting,
Mhm.
right? Okay. Anyone else got anything else on trees before we move on?
Well, I do have something else on trees, but it's a whole separate, it's a program at the library. You want to hear about it?
Yeah.
The library and the Chamber of Commerce are having a spring day set for May 4th, I guess it is Saturday, if that's the full, yeah. Bruce is going to give a talk at the library about the wonderfulness of trees. He's not going to talk about trees in Kent, but just about the things that trees do, their purposes, it's going to be more like a literary talk about trees. And it's going to be at 11 o'clock. You know, he will talk about how many meters of carbon are absorbed by a tree of such and such a size, all the kinds of things that create wonder about the beauties of trees. Some of their historical significance or symbolic significance. Anyway, it's going to be a nice program.
That sounds nice.
By the way, that reminds me of something that Bruce mentioned. He's going to be away from, was it 20-some March till, I think, the 15th or so of April.
Right.
So he doesn't have much time to work on this.
Yeah.
And that grant, would that have to be in by the end of April or what?
April
Definitely.
17th.
April 17th. So
It may be that the
Look at this
DEP
for
will steer
you.
us towards another grant package. So let's hope for that.
Okay, all right, let's move on to the rest of the agenda. If there are any updates, Green Energy Task Force.
No, and well, yeah, we're working. Jean can talk about this. We're working on the electric chargers, and we have a meeting, a Zoom meeting on the 20th of,
Yep.
I think, to talk about whether we might be, Kent might be eligible for superchargers. We don't want ordinary chargers, or we're less interested in them, but there are grants out there. But
This is specifically for the NEVI program. And I think Cornwall, North Canaan, Salisbury, and Kent expressed interest in getting more information and having a call with the folks at Deep. So we'll be doing that next week.
Great.
How many of the fastest speed EV stations can they put in as opposed to like the mid-level?
Well, the focus is really on the fast chargers. But the wrinkle is that the grant is looking for a minimum of being able to charge 4 cars. And a lot of the towns are looking at spaces for 2 cars. So 1 2-sided charger. So we have to sort of walk through that wrinkle with Deep next Wednesday on the call.
I think that's a little short-sighted to go with the only 2.
You think we should go with 4 anyway?
Yeah, just from seeing how they're used. limiting it to two is probably not a good plan for the relatively near term.
Yeah, a lot of the towns are, they may not, the locations that they're looking at may not have the space to put two side-by-side chargers.
Well, the place we're looking at is perfect, right? Assuming the Patco station, not known, formerly known as, would be interested.
I don't know is that where you guys are looking, or I thought,
Yeah, I mean, we could even put in a solar cover umbrella for that station.
Is it meant to be municipally owned land?
No, it can be anywhere.
I thought,
has anybody approached the owners of the
Well,
property?
Marty thought was going to do that, but he may
Yeah,
have been with
that's-
a little more information. It's very theoretical right now, but it would be very advantageous for the station. It's perfectly located. It's got plenty of space. It will bring in extra business to him. Otherwise, somebody driving an electrical vehicle will not stop there for milk probably, but if they stop there for charging, they will buy a lottery ticket and everything else.
Now, the welcome center was also talked about, right?
Right.
Yeah,
But that space is not very large.
yeah, I think that space would only be available for two.
well, let's see
So-
what you learn next week about the program. And
Yeah.
it sounds like some good progress.
So only loosely related to, well, it's green energy. But this big EPA grant, the climate pollution reduction grant, there, I remembered it. It's a pretty complicated grant. And so it's taken me weeks and weeks and weeks to sort of brief in, but the state has a climate plan that they had to submit to the EPA in order to have funding come into the state for this CPRG. And each of there are 4, so they're not these boundaries don't follow the COGS. They follow municipal planning organization boundaries, which are slightly different from the COGS. And the Northwest Corner is not its own municipal planning organization. It reverts back to the state plan, but there are a bunch of different buckets of funding that are going to be coming available that the ARCOG is hoping to help, multiple towns be able to apply for some of this state funding. We're also part of a coalition with some MPO COGs down south, Naugatuck Valley and River Cog and down on the shore, so that we can ARCOG can sort of ride the coattails of the MPO COGs. And there's going to be funding that's going to be applied for implementation of some affordable housing solar project. And we're looking at helping towns draft climate friendly zoning regulations that are, Town of Kent and a lot of the other Northwest Corner towns have already written a lot of that, but there's other, there are other more measures that can go into zoning regulations. So those are the 2 target areas for this other implementation grant. So there's going to be coming up a number of opportunities for green energy grant funds for towns to apply to. And hopefully we'll get a bunch of towns, which that's what everybody wants is, you know, more regional approach, multi-town approach. So I'll keep you all posted on that.
All right, great. That sounds complicated.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're on. And I feel like Kent will have a leg up because of our in at the cog. So
Thanks.
Okay. Housatonic herbicide working group. I have one update, and that is that Maria, so first I will confess that I did not get the letter off in time. Maria Horn and Senator Harding raised a bill that would require our railroads in Connecticut to go by the same standards as Massachusetts does. And as far as I can tell, it did not make it out of committee. It was heard in the Environment Committee meeting of February 28th. So that railroad spraying, well, we can do the bills when we get to it, but I don't know what they're gonna do now. Anyone else
No.
have any update?
Wonder why it didn't move. If it maybe for most of the state, it's just not
I'll tell you why.
important. But
Lobbying by the railroad.
The railroad
you
lobby.
Go to
yeah.
the bill and see who testified, and it's pretty clear that the railroad came out, you know, pretty strong in opposition.
it always surprises me how effective lobbying is.
Yeah, I looked to see what had happened and I looked to see who testified, but I didn't read any of the testimony because it was old news. But we could, you know, if you're interested, you could click in and see why it was that the railroad thought that this would be a bad idea. Okay, I'm moving us forward. Bruce will tell us when they're ready to go again. Bruce didn't testify, but the one of the members from Cornwall did. And again, I didn't read. Okay, materials management in Kent. I guess the update there would be that following our conversation in February, a poster was made and is posted at the transfer station, you know, celebrating the tonnage of food that has been diverted from the waste stream since that began last July. And I don't think there's any other update unless you have one, Jean.
Has the poster come? Post up
Yeah, it
and-
was like the next weekend.
Yeah.
It happened very quickly.
Jen's good that way.
Yeah.
I do have a question. I haven't looked at the town budget yet. But the organics compost is a 1-year pilot. And so the town needs to be, you know, getting ready to make some decisions on where to go once the pilot is done, and everybody's transfer station permit fees were lowered, you know, because they were being supported by the grant. So I don't know if where that stands, but I think it would make good sense for Connie maybe to ask the question at a Board of Selectmen meeting, or I don't know if you guys have gone to a budget workshop or if they've asked you to come to a budget workshop.
It's not, I mean, it's not our budget, so I don't think they would have necessarily. But I can reach out to see if that has been addressed in the budget for next year.
Would that be a line item in the transfer station budget?
Yes, it would be the fees would have to, something would have to happen with the fees, because the grant is only for 1 year.
How much
And I
did our
think-
fees go down?
It depended if it was a senior permit, I think it was 25, I forget.
I don't remember paying such a difference that I wouldn't still participate in the program and, I mean, nothing. I think that, I don't know, maybe a year's not long enough to get people used to doing things, but I can't imagine that people, for the cost differential, the cost differential was not the only thing that was motivating people to separate out their food scraps, because it is
Right.
cumbersome and inconvenient to separate your food scraps. So you would have to really have a financial incentive for that to be the reason. So I don't know, but let's find out,
Right, but I guess my point is, with the pilot ending, so the grant funding is ending, that was supplementing the lowered permit fees and paying for covering the costs of the hauling for curbside compost down into Milford Farms. So I hope that the Board of Selectmen want to continue having the food scrap program be part of the transfer station. And I think somebody needs to, and this body would be the appropriate body to say out, or to, knock on Marty's door and say, hey, don't forget the pilot is ending in July. And how is the town gonna budget for food scraps to continue to be part of the budget? And maybe they've already addressed it. But I haven't heard, I haven't seen anything in newsletters or anything like that. So I just wanted to sort of say out
I hope-
loud that it's gonna come to an
I
end
hope the-
eventually. What's gonna happen after that?
Any
Yeah, will
idea
we-
how much the cost would be?
I don't.
no, but we can find that out. That's the,
I hope this poster going up will be very positive. I mean, it will be, make a good argument for keeping the program.
Yeah.
savings is gonna be the argument, how much the town saves.
But also how much we're diverting out of MSW, which it sort of equals that, but it's also the part of this the overall solution to this crisis is diversion, a big part of it.
Do we get a bucket of mulch
No.
or we don't?
No,
Oh, I thought some towns do that.
I know, we've talked about this a lot, though, in the past. That's not part of the pilot program.
Okay.
All right. POCD. I have no update. Yost, do you have anything that is, okay. All right, so we're getting to the end, which is nice. Under new business, it's that time of year that these bills get raised and either move or don't. So I did largely tipped off by the Connecticut League of Conservation Voters. So if you like this stuff, I would encourage you to get on their e-news. I went through all of the bills that are before the Environment Committee, or were before, have been raised. And I tried to pick out the ones that would be most interesting to us. And you see them on that second page of your agenda. And I can share that up, just in case, well, everyone's got it in front of them. But it's too bad that Railroad Spring and the two extended producer responsibility bills on solar panels and consumer batteries don't seem to be going anywhere. But somewhat hopeful that rodenticides made it out of the single committee meeting, but now it's before the joint committee. Just to explain kind of my notes, in case it wasn't obvious, HB 5225 was adding these plants, including porcelainberry and mugwort and quackgrass and Japanese angelica, Callery pear, to the invasive plants list, and that prohibits their sale at nurseries throughout the state.
Mugwort and quackgrass, they aren't sold, are they?
Could you imagine buying mugwort? Ah, you know, but anyway, so it was interesting to see that. Last week, there were some big ones on, these hearings happen on Fridays. So the big climate bill was heard, as well as neonics, which we've been following with our work on the pollinator pathway for a couple of years. I thought it was interesting that there was actually a bill about making sure that all balloons were biodegradable. That one I can't see going forward, but none of the results from that hearing are posted yet, or at least they weren't at 11 o'clock this morning. So we'll have to wait and see, what moved. There's another hearing this Friday. I added some bills to this list, because when I made this was, I think I prepared the agenda on Saturday. So there have been other bills raised since then, including one that is about solid waste management, municipal solid waste management, one that is trying to get the state to do a pollen count each year and report out the impacts of that on health. There's an EPR for to study the need for an EPR bill for carpets. Okay, so the bill isn't really EPR for carpets, but just whether or not one would be helpful. Some revisions to the EPR tire program, gas cylinder stewardship, some revisions to that. And I added also to the list something that was heard on the 8th of March called Terramation. So this is the new name for when green burials. It's like cremation, but it's earthmation, terramation.
Hmm.
So don't know what happened with that one, but that also was heard on the 8th. So some interesting stuff. We'll have to see.
This week I attended part of a webinar on neonicotinoids. And several experts actually said that these neonics, they're not effective for farmers. They don't help against pests. They only have negative effects. So why are they even still sold?
Wow.
It's all pushed by the company,
The big
chemical
ag, big
companies.
pharma. Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, like rodenticides, it's basically bait. It's like food that attracts the pests to the poison. But the thing with the rodenticides is that there's more poison than is needed to kill an animal. So it goes in, it goes out, and then it gets consumed by another beast that usually they're natural predators who would have killed that thing to begin with, eats it, and then dies. And so, it's sort of, you create a pest problem where there might not be one by putting out food that attracts them. And then you eliminate the predators that would naturally control them. It's terrible. Really, that those two things, rodenticides and neonicotinoids, go through this year. So I think that's it. Number 8 is correspondence. I know I have mail and I can't ever get here during the working hours, so it's locked in an office, and if there's anything important, I'll have to circulate it after the meeting. But,
Do you have a key to the building, Connie?
oh, that's right.
That key
You
gets
said
into everything except the
one.
vault and the RV room, office.
That's right. I will try it right after we conclude. Hopefully it's nothing.
Don't set off any alarms.
Hopefully none of the correspondence was stuff that we absolutely must have addressed tonight. But I do want to bring up again, once more, that it's March, so that means we have April, May, and June. 3 more months. Of which I have promised that I will chair this commission. And after that, we need to figure out something else.
Before that,
Yeah.
Right, right. But as of July, someone else is running the meeting.
Mhm.
So given that we don't have everyone here tonight, we could just volunteer one of them, but that doesn't really seem like the nice thing to do. Maybe.
Well, we don't have to be nice.
We also could, like, you could try something like naming a chair and then rotating the responsibility for running the meeting, but it just shouldn't be me. Anyway, so, just want to put that reminder out there in case people didn't remember.
Don't remember.
Oh, that.
Right. Okay, well, this June, okay. So that's it, I think, folks. Or anything else before we conclude and I go get the mail?
Connie, just shoot me a text, and let me know, what you need for the gloves and I can run over the firehouse probably even tomorrow or this weekend or whatever.
Oh,
And
I don't know that I'll know for a couple of weeks, Jean, because
Okay.
we just started recruiting using that form.
oh, right. Okay.
No,
Yeah,
they
just
don't.
let me know and I can run down and meet you or, whatever works. It's easy,
Okay.
easy.
Yeah, and we'll just need it before April 6th and 7th. So that's
Okay.
what we're shooting for. Okay,
Okay.
great. So it is 8:35 and we will adjourn. And we should probably vote on it. Does anyone want to move? to adjourn? Mike is. I'll second. All in favor? Yay. All right,
Good night, all.
stopping the recording.